Alright, what's up, Calvin? Check it out, bro. This is going to be the first stage. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to prep the wires. Alright? So, obviously I know you know to strip the wires. You can use these kind here. Whatever kind works, you know. I mean, everybody has their preferences. These actually work really good without nicking the wires. Because if you nick the wires, it's underneath the sheath, you know. Every nicked wire is lost power. So, you don't want to nick any wires, you know. Use some good wire strippers. And even the shitty ones will work. You just have to finesse the sheath off of the wire. Okay? So what I always do is check that insulation right there that I pull off, you know, to see if there's any nicks or strands in there. There's no nicks, no strands missing. Twist the wire a couple of times, you know, make sure that it's good and solid, and the wire ends aren't going to fray and everything. And there's a perfectly stripped wire right there. So go ahead and do another side. Check the wire in, no wire in there, that's good. Because if you got a wire end in there, I just would cut the wire again, right here. You know, cut it right there at the end, and then strip it again. And try not to nick any wires next time. I mean, even if you don't cut all the way through the insulation, you have to rip it off. I mean, I'd rather do it that way and know that the power is getting there. You know what I'm saying? So, that's the first part. I'm going to go ahead and fire up the soldering iron. I don't know how well you can see that exactly, but hopefully you can see it. Okay, so I've got my rigged up soldering iron here. And basically what you want to do is touch the wire, you know, make sure it's all twisted up. Touch the wire to the actual soldering iron. The tip should have melted molten solder on it. You'll see when it's hot enough it'll actually have melted solder. So after that, then you try touching the wire, or the solder to the wire. You know, the soldering iron on one side, the wire on the other. Obviously this isn't conducting the heat, so you take just a hair of solder, just a little tiny bit, and then touch it between the actual soldering iron and the wire itself, and the flux from inside the wire will actually come out, and the wire will suck it up, and then you just push the solder in until you have a nice, you know, until you know that there's plenty of solder on there. Not too much, but not too little either. You know, you just want to have a nice little group, like a glob on there. You know, I can still see the actual twists of the individual strands, but it's not like dripping, you know. I don't have a big puddle. I don't have a big dripping puddle looking thing right there. So just try to keep it clean, you know. I mean, you'll know when the metal's saturated, when the actual wire is saturated with solder. You don't want to put too much too, because it'll go up into the jacket, you know. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything, but you don't want too much flux going up under there, because the flux is actually it's acid, so it's corrosive. And after you're done with your wire, soldering all your wires together, you want to clean them off, you know. Take a wet paper towel or something and just wipe them off, you know. Wipe any excess flux that you can get off there, because, you know, the more that sits on there, the more it's going to want to corrode. So I'm going to do another wire here real quick before I run out of time on this video here. So like I said, you know, touch the soldering iron when it becomes hot. Yours are going to have to let it sit there for a little bit. Let it get hot for a little bit. So I'm talking like 1 minute, 2 minutes maybe. Alright, so this wire, you know, should be hot. There's no flux on the actual soldering iron, so it's not conducting any heat. Put a little bit between the iron and the wire. Boom. Starts flowing right into the wire, just like that. And that's it. Very easy, very quick. Okay, so you've got a group of wires, right? You've got a whole group of wires. So what you want to do, this is 14 gauge. You have like 18 gauge wires, or maybe a little bit thicker, 16 gauge. Strip like an inch of insulation off of each wire. Twist them all together, and then once you have them all twisted together, you know, they're going to all be totally, you know, just make sure they're straight, make all the wires straight, you know, put a rubber band on this side, and make sure that there's no frayed ends that are going to poke out or anything, and then the heat time on your gun is going to take a while to get that big piece of wire, because once you know, essentially you're twisting all those wires together, you're going to make it one big wire. So strip a little more insulation off if you need to get a nice clean tight twist to it, and And then do the same thing, you know, put your soldering iron on it, let it set there for, it's going to take a while for that wire to want to heat up. But, you know, take a little bit of your solder, set it between the actual soldering tip of the soldering iron and the wire itself, so the flux flows to the wire and the gun, you know, more so to the wire. And then once it does that, like I said, the solder will suck right up to wherever the flux has been. So once you're done, you know, getting the wire nice and hot and the solder's flowing, just run your solder back and forth a couple of times while you're pushing it into the copper, and it'll suck it up. Not too much though, you know. So just get the wire nice and shiny, get a nice good coat on there, and make sure the wire's hot enough too to get all the way in, like the penetration to the center of the wire. And then cut the end off nice and clean. And then when you go to take it to your amp, you're gonna want to make two. You're gonna want to make two different ones. You know, two different wires, groups of wire from your power supply. So take your wires and put them in, you know, on each side, so you don't jam that screw sideways, because they'll break. You know, they're only made out of cheap steel. So do that with both the negative and the positives. Once you get the solder on and everything cleaned up, you know, cut the end off so it's nice and clean and it's shorter. You know, you don't need a bunch of wire hanging out. You don't want that. You want it nice and buttered up, nice and tight. You know, just like that. You don't want your wires hanging out. So get your shit on bomb, and then you should be getting a whole lot more power to your amplifier. I guarantee it. So, all right, man. Well, good luck with all that. If you have any questions, just ask. I'll be here. All right, dude. Later.
Digital.